You wrote a book called Allies at War
Yeah.
while you were at Brookings. Of course, I didn't read it, otherwise I wouldn't be a journalist. But obviously, and was it a very big mistake to go to Iraq? Was it a big mistake?
I have thought that the costs of the Iraq War have outweighed the benefits of the Iraq War.
The costs.
Yeah, that's what I thought at the time. I still think when you look back at the human costs, the cost to America's reputation, the financial costs, the cost to Iraqis, it's hard to argue that what we've gained is greater than that. But there were also benefits as well, getting rid of Saddam Hussein. And it's also true that the situation in Iraq is now getting much better. Indeed, I have to admit, better than I thought it would be. If you asked me 2 years ago where we would be in 2010, I would have been pleasantly surprised to see where we are now. I think last month was the first month since the start of the war there were no American casualties. So that's very positive, and maybe in the long run it will prove not to have been a mistake. But there's no question that there have been major costs to the war.
Now it's very easy to talk. Would you do it? Would you, if you were now, flashback, and it's you with Mr. Obama, would you go into Iraq, having seen what happened, or as we stand today?
Yeah, I mean, you can never replay history, and there's so many hypotheticals, and maybe you would have done it differently. What would have happened had we not done it? Now we just need to, and this was the case of the Obama administration, we inherited what we inherited, and you can debate forever whether it was wise or not, but it's done, and that's been our dialogue with Europeans as well, and that has been part of what President Obama has been able to say to Europeans about Iraq, which is, look, I didn't agree with this, you didn't agree with it in most cases, but we now have an interest in stabilizing the situation. We need together to do what we can to preserve our interests and help the Iraqis. So there's no point in you could sit back and or abdicate responsibility and say, well, I didn't create the situation, so I'm not responsible for it. But we are responsible for it. We have interest there, and what we need to do is start with what we've got and do the best we can.
And when it comes to Europe, I don't want to make your job, but the talk here, I mean, what we hear all the time, what we talk about is that Mr. Obama is all about multilateralism. The new world is more about multilateralism, polar world, and you in America, Mr. Obama looks more into China, for example, than Europe, and Europe's role is minimizing and Americanizing in general in the world. Do you agree with that assertion? Do you live that in Washington as the Europe man?
I can tell you that has been said about every president since Lyndon Johnson. That he's no longer from the East Coast and he's focused on Asia. And then you had Nixon's from California, Reagan and Carter's from the South, and Asia was rising, and the Middle East is more important. It's a theme that just comes up over and over again, and it usually proves wrong, because all of these presidents, even if they don't have a strong background in Europe or might not be from the part of the country that is traditionally focused on Europe, they discover that to deal with a complicated and difficult world, you need allies. And our best and strongest allies are often our European partners, who are democratic and prosperous and have the same values as us. So I think with President Obama, this notion is going to prove as unfounded as it has been in the past. Now,
that would certainly please European leaders and Europe in general, because what I wanted to have you comment about is this very strange relationship between you and us. I mean, we want more America, but then when it gets too much, we want less America. And now you can hear already people complain about Obama not paying enough attention to Europe, and should he pay more attention to Europe?
Well, that, what you observe, is also a long-standing tradition of Europeans and many others to complain about American domination and influence until it's not there, and then they wonder, where's the leadership? Please get more involved, and that's that's natural. No, I think Europeans are actually quite satisfied with our engagement, and certainly again, the notion that President Obama is focused elsewhere. Obviously, we're paying a lot of attention to Iran and Afghanistan and Pakistan, and we would be irresponsible not to. And the rise of China is a huge factor on the international stage. So of course he's paying more and more attention to these global issues. But what that actually means for the relationship with Europe is not that we need to pay less attention, but we need Europe more. Because as we try to deal with Iran, Afghanistan, the Middle East, Africa, poverty, climate change, we need Europe more than ever. And I think that President Obama knows that. He knew it coming in. He's been to Europe, I think, 6 times in his first year, which I haven't researched it, but I'll bet is.
He didn't come to the Berlin Wall. Big party.
Secretary Clinton came to the Berlin Wall instead of the president.
Did you come?
I did. I came along with Secretary Clinton, and it was a moving, important event to commemorate one of the big successes for Europe and the United States of the past decades. But
6 times in his first year.
I think so, and I'll bet you that that's more than any president has ever come to Europe in his first year in office. Well, no, I said I haven't researched it. You can research it yourself. Call me if I'm wrong. But I can't think of a president. I can't think of a president who's made that many trips to Europe. He came over for a NATO summit, and he came over for a EU summit, and he's very interested. And he knows that we have important relationships with all of these countries that are necessary to manage the global challenges that we face.
So you just said to me that you need Europe more than ever now. Here is Europe after the Lisbon Treaty. Do you feel now, the question that we've been asking all the time, do you feel now that you have a president, you have Kissinger's phone now, and you know exactly who to call, because we're a little bit at the beginning? How do you feel? I mean, you are the man who will pick up the phone in Washington and call who? Not you, Hillary Clinton.
It's a gradual process. There's not going to be one day to the next where Europe goes from having member states and strong countries to having one single representative. I don't think anybody believes that that's really the plan.
I don't think that's the plan.
Not to have a single phone number. We're always going to have relationships with different individual countries. But it is true that increasingly Europe's foreign policy is coming together. Europeans are more united. The new post-Lisbon structures provide new institutions and individuals who will have more responsibility. Well, that's part of the point, but you're just not going to get to the point where there's one single interlocutor. Frankly, for that matter, we don't have a single interlocutor either.
You do. I mean, you got.
Well, of course we have the President of the United States, but we have a Secretary of State, a Secretary of Defense, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. There are a lot of people that are worth talking to in our system, just as there are and there will be in Europe.
I was reading a paper from the European Council of Population thing, saying that it would be a good idea if Hillary Clinton and Catherine Ashton got together once a year, twice a year, or immediately, I mean in the next month, did a trip to somewhere, and to sort of make the point that they are homologous on the same level. What would you think about that?
Well, I suspect that Secretary Clinton and Baroness Ashton are going to get together a lot more than once a year. They've already met in Brussels. I think Catherine Ashton has mentioned that she plans to come to the United States very soon, as early as next week. And I think you're going to see them seeing a lot of each other more and more.
On an established basis, like every year, both of them to review the whole, on a fixed date or...
Sure, and we already have a system of US-EU summits, but my point is they're going to be speaking. They actually spoke by phone about the Haiti situation yesterday. Beyond any institutional annual formalities, they're going to be in very close touch, because Europe, and increasingly the EU, is such an important partner of ours. They have so much business to do together. They're going to be on the phone a lot, and they're going to see each other a lot in Europe and in the United States.